My name is Timothy Engel. I'm a junior here at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm a chemistry major with minors in biology and music. As a science major, I never really got exposure to literature such as poetry, so it's kind of something new to me. But the chance to read American's Favorite Poems anthology really opened my eyes to what this literature can do. To me, poetry has become a way to express things about myself that I didn't know how to put into words. My favorite poem from the anthology is Hornworm Autumn Lamentation by Stanley Kunitz. I think what I liked so much about this poem initially was just how beautiful and rhythmic it sounded, even though there's no specific rhyme scheme. After I read it the first time, I just found myself reading it aloud time and time again. I was amazed at how he could create such a beautiful poem just through his word choice and rhythm of words. This poem tells the story of a hornworm who wants to believe that at the end of his life he'll be turned into a beautiful butterfly, but in his heart he knows that this is probably not the case and that this won't happen. It's clear that he has large ambitions for his life. He says, I will one day be soaring over steaming fields. So it's clear that he wants to believe, but at the same time he knows the gravity of his situation. Hornworm Autumn Lamentation by Stanley Kunitz. Since that first morning when I crawled into the world, a naked grubby thing, and found the world unkind, my dearest faith has been that this is but a trial, I shall be changed. In my imaginings I have already spent my brooding winter underground, unfolded silky powdered wings, and climbed into the air, free as puff of cloud, to sail over the steaming fields, alighting anywhere I pleased, thrusting into deep tubular flowers. It is not so. There may be nectar in those cups, but not for me. All day, all night, I carry on my back, embedded in my flesh, 2 rows of little white cocoons, so neatly stacked. They look like eggs in a crate, and I am eaten half away. If I can gather strength enough, I'll try to burrow under a stone and spin myself a purse in which to sleep away the cold. Though when the sun kisses the earth again, I know I won't be there. Instead, out of my chrysalis will break, like robbers from a tomb, a swarm of parasitic flies, leaving my wasted husk behind. Sir, you with the red snippers in your hand, hovering over me, casting your shadow, I greet you, whether you come as an angel of death or of mercy. But tell me, before you choose me to slice me in two, who can understand the ways of the great worm in the sky? After conducting some research, I found that the hornworm is a fairly large greenish caterpillar that feeds on plants and eventually turns into a moth at the end of its life. The cocoon that the hornworm describes on his back are actually wasp larvae, which are parasitic to the hornworms. They lay their eggs on the hornworm's back, and eventually the larvae break from their cocoons and devour the worm. I think one of the reasons I connect so strongly with this poem is the subject matter of worms and nature and things like that. I did like gardening growing up, and I think I really connect to it in that way. Also, I love animals. I love worms and creatures and everything like that, and so I think I really loved reading about this worm and how he was personified in this poem. I think the reason I connect most strongly with this poem, however, is the outlook of the hornworm on life. He wants so desperately to believe that he will be transformed at the end of his life, but deep in his heart he realizes that instead he's going to be eaten by the wasps on his back. I think this belief in eventual transformation parallels that held by most religions, this belief in an afterlife. I personally was raised in a Christian household, and I grew up with these doctrines taught to me from a very young age. But I always had questions. I was perplexed why an all-powerful and all-loving God would create a world which contains so much pain and suffering. It is the exact same question which the hornworm faces in this poem, why a God would predestine him for death at the hands of these parasites. In this regard, I relate very closely to the hornworm. I would like to believe in this eventual transformation, but if I'm being honest with myself, I do not think that it will actually occur. I love the final line, who can understand the ways of the great worm in the sky? I view this line as a very sarcastic remark directed at religion and how religious people often hide behind this intellectually lazy claim that we cannot know what God intends because we are merely mortal.
I guess maybe I would consider myself rather agnostic. I haven't really thought about labels or anything like that. I admit that I don't know what will happen after death, but I don't subscribe to any of the current ideas. I by no means am hostile to religion, but I think that after an honest and logical evaluation, I just can't say with confidence that I have a definitive answer. In this way, I think I'm really similar to the hornworm and his outlook on life from this poem. And another thing I get from this poem is the idea that nothing in life is given. Just like the hornworm, we can't hope for any divine intervention to change our lives. We just have to learn to live and fight and make it through the difficulties of life. We have no idea what happens after death. I think we all need to finally agree on that. Just no one knows. I think that we all just need to live a good life here and now because this is the only life that we know exists. So instead of living for something else, I think we need to make the most out of what we have now. We alone are responsible for our destinies, and this is the fact that both the hornworm and I have to come to terms with.